Well, this is Vedat from Programmership. In this chapter, we are going to talk about switch case statements. The switch statement takes a value, compares it to several possible matches, and executes the appropriate block of code based on the first successful match. It is an alternative to using multiple else-if statements. Every switch statement must have a match for all the possible values, otherwise the compiler will give an error. Sometimes we can't write all the possible values, so switch provides us default statement just like the else statement that we saw in the previous chapter. So let's make an example and see how it works. Let's say var my number is equal to, let's say 4. And here at the bottom, let's say switch, which is our keyword, put our source, which is my number variable. Open your curly bracket and close it. So inside this switch statement, we're going to define some cases. Let's say case 1, that means if my number is 1, let's print number is 1. So let's define another case 2, print number is 2. Let's say case 3, number is 3. Case 4, let's say print number is 4. So if I try to run the code, it will give an error because we didn't specify all the cases. It's not possible because we defined the my number variable as integer, so there are millions of possibilities, just because we can't write all the cases, so we must finish it with the default statement. Let's say print unknown number. So hit run, and here we can see it says number is 4, which is this case statement. So what happens here? Let's take a look at that. First, the my number, which is our source, will be compared to the first case. If it is 1, then this case will be executed. If it's not, then it will look at the second case, which is if it is 2, then this print will be executed, so on and so forth. If none of these cases will not match, then the default case will be executed, which is unknown number. So let's try to change my number, let's say 2. Hit run, and here it says number is 2. Let's define a number that greater than 4, let's say 10, and hit run. Here we can see that the default case was executed because there is no any case which controls if my number, our source, is 10. We can also define a range for a number. To do that, we can use closed range operator. Let's look at that in a different example. Let's delete all these and define a variable. Let's say speed limit is equal to, let's say 120. So let's write a switch statement. Switch, put our source, which is speed limit. Open your curly bracket and close it. So inside this switch statement, let's define some case with the range. Let's say case 0, 3.40. So that means if speed limit is in between 0 and 40, this 3 dots represents range between 0 and 40. If it is true, let's print slow. So let's define another case. Case if it is between 41 and let's say 70, print normal. Let's define another one. Case 71, between 71 and 100, let's say print fast. So let's define another case. It is between 101 and 150. Let's print death because it is too fast, right? For the all other cases, let's say default, print unknown speed. So here we just define some cases that includes range. So hit run, and we can see it says death. Why? Because our speed limit value, which is 120, is in between this guy, which prints death. let's try to change our variable, let's say 60. What is expected? It must print this guy, right? Normal. Let's hit run and see the result. It is normal. So let's give a huge value, let's say 250, and hit run. It says unknown speed because we didn't specify any range that includes 250. We can also use switch case on tuples. If you don't know about tuples yet, we already have a chapter for that. You can take a look at that. Let me show you how to use switch case on tuple. First, let's delete all these and define a tuple. Let's say var person is equal to, remember to define a tuple, we are going to put our values between parentheses. Open your parentheses and close it. So inside the parentheses, let's put a name, let's say Vedat, and the second value, let's say 30, which represents age. So let's create a switch statement. Switch, put your source, which is person in this case, open your curly brackets and close it. So here inside a switch, let's say case. So I'm gonna define a tuple without name. Say if it is George, if the first value is George, then let's try to get the second value. Let's say let's age and print George is, let's try to grab the age value years old. Here in the first case, it will check if the person first value is equal to George. If yes, it will get the second value and define it into our age constant. This is what this case means. Let's define another case. Let's say if it is Vedat, then grab the second value. Let's print Vedat is age years old. So let's define another case. If the first value of person is Alex, then get the second value. Alex is age years old. So finally, for the all other cases, let's say default is print unknown person. In this example, we created a tuple called person and gave two values which represents name and age. Then we try to return the age based on the first value of the person tuple. Switch statement will look at each case first value if it is matched with the person's tuple first value. If yes, then it will return the second value, which is age. So let's give it a run and see the result. Here we can see the first value of person tuple was matched with this case, and the second value of the person will be defined into age constant, and then we put the constant in the string. Let's say George and hit run, as we expected, right? So let's define another name which was not mentioned in these cases. Let's say Mariam. Hit run, and we can see the default statement was executed. I think you got the idea about the switch case statement. That's it for this chapter. See you in the next one. Goodbye.